All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm super stoked to be here hanging out with all of you. And this is awesome for me because this is my first foray into academia. So hopefully this doesn't suck and maybe all of you may learn something. My goal really is to just get you to look at retail a little differently, right? You're in the fashion realm and retail and fashion are like peanut butter and jelly. I just want to change the way that you look at shopping. And when you go into a store next, I guarantee you're not going to look at it the same way. So it's going to be pretty fun. By the way, speaking of stacked jewelry as a trend, right? You know, my mom, I love her to death. She always says I'm the daughter she never had, right? So I got this stack here, this stack here. So somebody's right on point with that trend. So, you know, I got to give you credit there. So one thing that I want to do too is real quick, I want to, as I navigate through this, I don't know if you want me to just, if you have like a click or.
I'm going to see if we can get this to get off. Sometimes it likes us, sometimes it doesn't.
Awesome. This is great. This is like so much power.
I know.
So first off, thank you everybody for being here. Okay, I know that it is cold as hell outside. You could have had any reason to not be here. You could have rolled over. You could have said, listen, Ohio State won. My liver hurts, whatever it is, okay? You have a million different reasons to be at the house and not with me, but you are. So I want to say that I have a lot of gratitude for that, and I'm grateful to be hanging out with you all this morning. So just a quick refresher. So my name is Max. I head up marketing and brand strategy at a company called ASG Schutt-Gerdemann, which is here in Columbus, which is awesome. And a little bit about our business. So Schutt-Gerdemann is an experience design agency. And what we do is we design stores and we design for retailers. And we design everything from the interior design, the exterior design, as well as the brand identity and the graphics and the communications that all come together packaged up. So when you think about a store, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way that you navigate through it, we do all of that. And here are 3 projects that may resonate with some of you. So over here on the left-hand side is a local project. It's called Vowed. It's a bridal shop at Easton. I don't know if any of you have been in a wedding party before, or if you've ever been wedding dress shopping. It's stressful. It's expensive. The mother-in-law's got opinions. Your mom's got opinions, right? So we wanted to break away from that. We wanted to just make it much easier and much less difficult to get your dress and also have fun while you're doing it. So that's at Easton. Across the street from that is another project that we have coming up called Altered State, which is going to be really fun. It's going to be a flagship store that we're developing for them at Easton. So we're going to have neighboring designs across the street from each other there. Funny enough, a story of 2 neighbors on the most expensive street in America. We have M&M's Times Square and Krispy Kreme Times Square. So you can literally throw a rock from one to the other. We designed both of those experiences. They're both flagships, and we won quite a few awards for those projects. And every time I get to go to New York, I always stop in and grab a donut, maybe grab some M&M's, and I come back home. So those are some pretty big projects for us. But it's not necessarily just about design. So we have a parent company called ASG, and the way that we work at ASG is we look at retail holistically. So design is just one component of what we do. So if you design something, eventually you're going to have to build it, right? And then if you build it, well, you're going to want to scale it. If you want to take it to multiple cities and take it to different locations, but then you got to find the locations. You got to say, hey, listen, is this the right market for me? Am I going to the right demographic here? And then you got to negotiate it. You got to do so many different things. It's a domino effect. So for us, we service retail as a whole. Design is one component of that. There's a lot more components to it that really play into it. And if you have any questions or concerns about this, let's talk after class, or let's even do a Q&A at the end of class and we can get it going. So a little background. I thought that this was funny because I have a very silly sense of humor, so I put a little background on here. But you know, I just want to give a tiny little bit about me. I'll try not to spend more than 5 minutes here so that it doesn't feel self-serving or anything like that. But Columbus, Ohio is home for me. So I was born here, I was raised here, and I love Columbus for all of its amazing features as well as all of its amazing faults, right? Like there's a lot of things that are great and not so great about this city. But the thing is, I've spent my whole life here. It's definitely what feels comfortable and what feels familiar. And one thing that I want to say about Columbus too is that Columbus has amazing retail. It has amazing restaurants. Like, that's one of the things that I really do believe we can hang our hat on, is just how cool and how many opportunities there are for businesses to flourish here, as well as the people here are always open-minded and willing to have a good time and try something out. That's why there's so many businesses that pilot here, that try things out, and then they may succeed or they may not succeed. It's because Columbus is just very open-minded and has a lot of entertainment that can play into it. And there's something that's a very big similarity between you and I, right? And this is something that you may not know. I am a graduate from The Ohio State University. I graduated in 2019. I got a degree in strategic communications. And it was the best 4.5 years of my life. It was 4.5 years because I'm not a genius like y'all. Okay, nobody told me how hard French 3 was going to be. But that being said, I had to rectify a few things to make it across the finish line. But I loved it, loved every bit of it. I got an extra season of football out of it, so got to enjoy everything there. But Ohio State was an amazing time, and it went by in a blink. So really make sure you enjoy your time here and relish it in the moment. But like every one of you, I had growing pains, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I was like, do I want to be a journalist? Do I want to work in business? Do I want to work in sales? Do I want to work in general communications, press, PR, some sort of crisis communications? I didn't know. I was like, what the hell am I going to do? So one thing that I've adopted over the years is to just try everything. Keep an open mind. Let me just see if I can dabble with this and see if I like it and if I'm good at it. Because if I try it, then I'll know whether or not I like it. So I started out at The Lantern. I'm sure everybody in here is familiar with The Lantern. It's Ohio State's news publication. I spent 2.5 years there, and I have to give a special shout out to a guy named Spencer Hunt, who is the chief editor. He let me write about whatever I wanted to write about. So I wrote about everything from arts and life, sports, opinion pieces, business pieces, and so much more. And I really enjoyed it, but I also learned I don't like that because I'm on call all the time. If I'm going to cover a piece, if I want to break a piece, they're going to call me at 11 o'clock and my editor's going to be like, hey, do you have that? I'm like, listen, I'm studying for another exam. I'm doing other things. So I realized if that's going to be my career, I'm going to have to wake up in the middle of the night, drive somewhere, cover some story, or I'm going to have to fly somewhere or do something. And it's very competitive, very difficult. And I was like, this just isn't sustainable. But it was fun while I did it. So I tried it out. I learned it. So then I took the easy route, or so I thought. So I tried sales, and I sucked. Like I wasn't good at it. I couldn't sell anything. So I was working at this restaurant software company, and they had this amazing product that basically, it was right at the time when buy online, pickup was starting to become a bigger deal. So this was 2017 and everybody was doing online pickup. They had this solution for online pickup, and it really was great, and it was really affordable, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't communicate it. I sucked. And I realized in 6 months I tried it, had some highlights, mostly lowlights, had to get out of it. But then came agency life. So agency life is the third pitch and finally the home run of the three. In agency life, the best way that I can explain it is everybody's professionally unprofessional. Everybody's cussing like sailors. Everybody's showing up late to meetings. Okay, everybody's got an ego the size of a hot air balloon. It's just one of those things. But if you can be scatterbrained like I am and just bouncing around off the walls up here all day, agency life will probably be really great for you. It's something that you should definitely try as you're working through your professional life and what you want to do, because agency life is so uniquely its own thing, and it's really been a good time. I have had so much fun on the endeavors that I've been on. I've been able to fly first class, been able to fly on private jets, fly all over the world really for projects, win a lot of awards, be a part of a lot of amazing business opportunities, present on behalf of clients, and do some great stuff. And it's all because agency life is just a little bit of a different vibe than being on the client side, because we interact with so many different brands and they need you to do different things at different times with a different purpose. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I also have a side gig. So I have a side gig, and if you think the egos are bad now, okay, let me just tell you, this job pays nothing. It's extremely difficult, it's extremely time demanding, and I'm working with egos that are bigger than any of you could have imagined, and I only do it because I love it. And it's that I'm a professional musician, so I play guitar in a couple different bands, and it's led me on some really, really cool endeavors in my life. I've traveled, I've played some awesome tours, I've met a lot of my heroes. Also met a lot of people that, when they say don't meet your heroes, sometimes you meet them and you're like, God, this person sucks. So I've had a lot of that, but I've played a lot of really, really cool shows, been on a lot of really cool endeavors and journeys with that. So shameless plug here, the first band is called Harmless Habit. It's like a modern rock sound. You can check us out wherever you listen to music. And then the other band is called A Place I Know. Again, a modern rock sound. You can check us out wherever you listen to music. All right, I'm done, I promise. Enough about me. You guys are like, dude, we get it, we know. So let's talk about trend forecasting. How do we do it? How do we think about it? How do we get from A to B with it? First off, again, I told you I want you to look at retail differently. When you go shopping, I don't want you to think of it in the way that you do right now. I want you to realize that when you go to a store, you actually don't have nearly as much control as you think. We are doing everything to get you to do what we want you to do. That is the psychological component of design, especially when it comes to retail. If you think you're just walking into Marshall's and you're navigating, just grazing, you're not. You're doing exactly what we want you to do. Same thing if you go to Sephora, you're like, I'm just going to pick up this little bit, I'm just going to pick up this thing. You're not doing that. Like, we know exactly what you're doing. We developed it that way, and it's very psychological, and we call this a customer journey. So this is almost a buzzword at this point. Everybody's familiar with the idea of a customer journey, but the customer journey in this sense really is to just map out what we want you to do, how you're going to do it at certain points. And everybody does this in their stores if it's a good design. If they don't do this, that's not so good. There's some problems there. We always have to monitor what it is that we're trying to accomplish with a space plan and a design and creating a journey with certain moments and milestones. And the best example that I can give you will be two, but I'll start off with the first is grocery. How annoying is it when you go to the grocery, right? Like if you go to that Kroger over there on 8th, you guys know the Kroger that I'm talking about, and you kind of got to battle through some stuff to get in there. But if you go to that Kroger, you know, I just want bread and peanut butter or something, right? Why do I got to walk a quarter mile to get that bread and peanut butter? It's because they're playing on your impulses. They're trying to get you to do things that you don't necessarily need. They're trying to also get you to have a little bit of education about products that you may not have known about, right? So you got to navigate through all these different things to get to what you primarily need. And they're trying to do that on purpose because, one, there is an education level there. There's stuff that you just don't know what you don't know. So if they have the product out there, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I came to get some bread and milk, but I left with some ice cream and, you know, I got some new toothpaste and I ended up with this gift card because I did need to get a gift for my mom. Like, it just turns into that, right? And Target is the best at this. Like, why do you go to Target? You go to Target, like, I just need some shampoo. And all of a sudden you leave with a $150 basket. It's because they have developed these amazing zones in their site plan and in their journey that get you to hit each little bit. So then all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna go get that shampoo, but man, that is a cute mug. And it's like, I do need a new towel. And all of a sudden it's $150. And then before you leave, they got Starbucks right there. So you're like, I guess I'll get a latte, you know, and it's just, you just completely ransack your bank account. So here's an example of how we do it. This is that project at Easton. This is called Vowed. So with Vowed, we develop certain moments within the space that are meant to do certain things. So down here on the bottom, you really can't see it, but I can talk to it. We have wow moments and we have these focals that are for the bride for when she says yes to the dress. We celebrate it, we document it, we photograph it, we make it a big thing. They shoot out confetti. It's really a great time. We also want to convey certain emotions at certain moments throughout the space. That's what these little tiny words are over here on the side. As you navigate from one viewing area to the next viewing area, you're supposed to feel certain things. You're supposed to feel different emotions and feel in touch with what the space is trying to tell you. And you don't actively notice that you're doing this. This is just something that's happening. You're not supposed to actively notice. We know that this is what's going on inside your head, but you are supposed to just say, this is really kick-ass. I'm having a great time. My gals are having fun. We're getting our dresses. But really, this is what's going on behind the scenes. So we also have technology that heat maps how we see this. So we can see how long you spend in a certain area, and we can say, hey, listen, on the next store, this area does better than this one. We have to factor this into the design because we know they're going to spend 5 more minutes here than they would here. So we need to improve this area, we need to keep this area strong, and we need to factor that into the future of the designs. So there's a lot of technology that goes into the customer journey too. And we don't just dictate what we think it should be. We do all this based on what you tell us. So you're giving us the information, you're giving us the data, we are inferring that, and then we're going to make the customer journey based on you and based on the information that we get from you. because we're pattern hunters. So let's take a look at this idea of the word trend anyway. When you think of trend, what is it really? Because, first off, trends to me are like Wall Street bets. If everybody's talking about the bet, you missed it. Don't put your money in that stock, right? If everybody's talking about the trend, just let it go. Start working on another thing. The real key for us as differentiators and innovators is to identify patterns. Because if we find a pattern, we forecast that it'll be a trend and we get on it early. So if you're looking for really, really cool trends, don't look at what everybody else is doing. Look at what everybody else is starting to do or what you think is going to be important and identify that pattern, because that pattern could be the next year trend. And it's the same philosophy within retail, is to look for the patterns first, and those patterns will definitely develop and become something bigger. And your actions and insights really are the vehicle for our perspective. So based on the patterns that we see from you, we're going to have a perspective on that, and we're going to be able to make these strong inferences that we apply to the designs, to the experiences, and to retail as a whole. Because the thing is you have so much more control than you know about how retail succeeds or not. You are the control group. The store isn't anything. It's you walking in there, going in, shopping, interacting, engaging, leaving feedback, reviewing. That ultimately leads to what people want to do. So you're probably asking yourself, all right, well, if you guys are so good at forecasting this and you guys do this all the time and you work with these brands, how do you do it? How do you source it, right? Because you have to have a strong source. So there's two really cool ones that I want to share. First of which is Stylus. So Stylus UK, everybody should check them out if you ever get an opportunity. They are a research partner of ours that we work with, and they run these amazing reports and insights that are global. And basically, they look at everything from consumer behavior, consumer attitudes, relationships, things in retail, things in restaurant, things that are going on that you're not necessarily paying attention to, but can be very innovative for the work that we do. And the other thing about it is again, we are a global design agency. I've been on plenty of projects throughout the US. I've also been on projects that are worldwide, and we have to have a worldwide perspective. We just had a project open up 2 days ago in Venezuela for a really, really cool pharmaceutical client, and I'm very excited to develop a case study about that. Can't do it yet, but when that time comes, it's going to be cool. They're a brand that's very much like a CVS, if you will, but the healthcare system is different in Latin America, and so we have to make sure that we are thinking about servicing the clients at a different level and also bringing in some different international inspiration and innovation that can tie into that project, and vice versa. Domestically, this might be a hot take, but the US is behind on retail experience. Like if you look at the best retail experiences, they're not here. They're overseas somewhere. And we have got to do a better job as an agency pushing our clients to do some really kick-ass work. So, the other thing is oftentimes we're just our own source. We are very hands-on with our projects. We travel all over the world for store tours, store audits, and analyzing stores with our own eyes. And we think that there's a lot of value in that, because if you're going to a store or you're just looking at things online, you don't have that sense of scale. You don't have that sense of traffic. You don't have that sense of the buzz that goes with it, right? So, the thing that's weird about agency life is I could have a completely open schedule and not really be doing anything one day. 2 days later, I'm in New York with some client because they needed you there. And they just had this thing happen, and it's like, we got to get on this and we got to get on it now. And it is, again, it's very scatterbrained, but these store tours really inform you a lot about people. They inform you a lot about the brand. And the best way that I can equate it for our clients is they're way too close to the project. Sometimes you're way too close to things that you do in life, so you don't see the faults in it. You're like, oh, that's my baby. But really, it's like, hey, listen, you should probably be doing some different stuff with your baby, right? You should try this, do this, and I bet you it'll start working out a little bit better. And sometimes our clients suffer from that issue. And the other thing is we do too sometimes. It happens to everybody. We always have to be conscious of that for that third-party feedback. Okay, go ahead.
Go back to the store trips you guys do. So talk about, do you guys do pre-planning sessions? I guess talk about the before and during and then after, and then how you're looking at it and how you're playing off of each other, and then do you end up developing like a key insight deck, and then you sit around. I think this is worthwhile for you to kind of extract it a little bit more so everybody can understand that, okay, we're going to go pattern. What does that really mean?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great moment to elaborate. So these are very these are thought through moments for us when we work with our clients. So if we do these store tours, we typically start off in a portion of our project called discovery and immersion. So one thing that we want to do is we want to be an extension of our client's brand. So we want to almost be a part of the brand. We want to be that company in the moment and have that psychological feeling like this is our baby too. So we kind of jump into it with discovery and immersion, and we plan out what markets we're going to hit, what stores we're going to visit, how we're going to visit them, why we're going to visit them, and then, to your point, we will pull every insight that we gain from that, and then we'll start to assemble it in something digestible. One thing that I want everybody in here to learn about business is if you think using big words make you sound smarter and using all that jargon, stop. Every CEO that I've talked to, they want to be talked to just like I'm talking to you. Keep it simple. And these store tours are the first way for us to get everybody on the same page so that they can say with their own eyes they saw what we saw. So we're on the same page. Then we take it, we synthesize it, we bring it back down to earth, and then we give them a document that they can refer to basically as the Bible going forward. Like, go back to that insights document, go back to what we immersed ourselves in. This is the base. We're going to start working from the base and working from what is inspiring you into the design. And you're going to approve it before we move to the next thing because we don't want there to be anything left unchecked or any disagreements or any way that we could interpret, oh, we're not on the same page there. So yeah, I think that's one of the main purposes for why we do these store tours is we all lock in together, we're all in agreement, and the insights that we uncover together, then we synthesize and package down, and we can use it and refer back to it for a really long time until it's no longer relevant, and then we got to do it again. So this isn't like an industry standard or anything. This is just something that I kind of feel for forecasting and how I would go about it. Forecasting in a simple way for me, when you look at brands and you look at how we can kind of help them wrap their mind around it, the first question you got to ask is, what is your target customer doing right now? Because if you're ever, and this is just a little piece of advice, if you're ever working with a brand and they say, we don't have a target customer, please run, because everybody's got a target customer. So that doesn't mean it's their only customer, but everybody has a target customer. You have to set a goal to connect with a certain demographic. And if you're lucky, you'll connect with multiple. But target customers are extremely important to have, and brands need to have them. So with that being said, all right, now you know who your target customer is. You know what they're doing. You know how they live their life. The next question is, what do we want that customer to feel? What do we want that customer to do within your store? What's that relationship going to be like? Because that's your differentiator. They're coming to Sephora because they know that they can rely on you for certain products. They know that there are some fun experiences with the employees that work there, and you can try certain products out and things of that nature, right? So what do we want your value proposition, and what do we want your guests to feel and to do within that space? So now you know what they're doing. Now you know what you want them to do. The third is, what is this multiple year outlook on this behavior and this design going to be? This part sucks, because everybody is going to change so radically, so fast. We all do it. It's just one of those things that happen, right? Like if you think about what life was like basically 5 years ago now, I guess, isn't that crazy to believe that? If you think about what life was like 5 years ago, you would go to a restaurant and there would be things between you and somebody else, right? There were limited hours to do things. Everybody adopted an online mentality, pick up, buy, and we never changed away from that. As a matter of fact, we actually leaned into it and we made it become much more of an ally and a strong suit for brands that are like, hey, listen, buy online, pick up in store. We'll drive on up, we'll get you set up. So now there's this efficiency that has happened, and that is something that none of us could have forecasted. So for us as designers, when we look at what's the consumer doing now, what do we want them to do, and what is this going to look like in 4 to 5 years, that third one is where stuff gets really, really muddy and difficult. And that's why you have to identify patterns and not trends. Because if you can get ahead early on the patterns, then you can start to forecast some really, really, really cool stuff and be innovative in your design. So we'll jump into some client examples. And I'm so glad you asked that question about, like, what does this look like? What we're going to do is we're going to actually kind of talk about that. So this is an example from a really, really big fashion retailer. I can't say the name because I like my job and I don't want to lose it today. But this fashion retailer, they did the whole nine. They took us out on their jet and they flew us all over the place, and we went to all these different markets and we went to all these different cities and stores. And basically, from the insights that we pulled and put together, we developed a way for them to start thinking as a home base for what their store experience should be. First things first, we believe that their customer is a dignified, smart, and soulful person, right? Those are the three main things that this store needs to convey in its experience. So one of the objectives that they wanted the space to do is this fashion retailer operated with a little bit more of a higher premium price product, and this new experience that they're trying to develop actually is a little bit more affordable, trying to reach the more middle-class family households. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to elevate the idea of savings. We wanted every guest to feel smart. We wanted them to feel savvy, right? Like they're getting a deal that not people really know about. Instead of like, oh, I'm getting sale items. It's like, no, like I can't believe I got the deal that I got, right? There's a weird way that you can psychologically play on that. And the best example that I can give that many of you can refer to with smart, savvy savings, I'll call it, is Abercrombie. Next time you go into Abercrombie, I want you to walk in there and I want you to look at how they present sale. They never put it in red. They never put it in bold. It's always in small type. It's always right on the tag. And you feel like, wow, I already like this shirt. It's on sale. I might as well grab it. That's why they do it. It's genius, right? And our idea was to kind of elevate the idea of savings into I'm being savvy versus I'm just saving money. Again, to dignity, right? The dignity idea is that this experience is something for everybody that's within that target demographic. And they also feel like they can really have a lot of dignity in working with this brand and the purpose of this brand. And then the soulful part comes in with that product and the experience. When I put these garments on, I want to feel like I have some soul. I want to feel a certain energy, a certain aura, if you will, that comes from this. And that's how those three kind of work together. So here are some ways that we broke that down from the store tours. This is super fun because we looked at something as simple as signage. You don't even realize the effect that signage has on your mentality when you walk into a store. If you walk in and you see some really ugly signage, you're going to be like, well, I'm not really feeling it. Like, for example, one example that we had over here on the right side, this is no shade at this brand, but this is Old Navy. Old Navy just has very, very flat, static signage that we thought was the absolute opposite of what we were trying to achieve, and it felt cheap, and it was something that, and I love Old Navy. I'm actually not hating on them. I'm just saying for what they've done, they've built a great business model, but we felt like that's not what we're looking to do. So we're looking for things hand-touched, something as small as the chalkboard. You go to Trader Joe's and you see them write out on the chalkboard and you feel like this is pretty cool, right? You just think about that. It's almost subconscious. So the hand-touched elements, having things written out or etched or scratched into things or even having things that were just LED lights, whatever it's more like, that's what we wanted them to do with their signage. We wanted it to feel much more human. On top of that, you know, when you think about stores, how often do you actually stop and take something in? You don't really do it very much. So one moment that we found specifically on this trip was we stopped in a space in Nashville, and they had this little chapel, and there was no context around what it was, but other than it was just there. So we walked into it because like who's not going to walk into it? What is this? And you get in there, and it was really powerful because you flip those little cards over and you find out that they're all these little handwritten prayers from all the guests that have come in and prayed for somebody or however they wanted to do it. So they walk in there, they put a prayer up, they put it away, and that's it. Nothing to buy, nothing to talk about, nothing to do. They just did it. And that purpose and that pause point helped us think, okay, let's do something maybe with the fitting rooms that give people a moment to reflect on their life, to reflect on what they're doing in the moment, to reflect on themselves and find that soul in this experience again. Find that soul in this product so that they connect deeper with that moment. And again, the fitting room is a very private thing too, which is great so you don't have a bunch of people watching you handwrite a prayer or do something like that, right? It's just you and in that moment. And then the other thing here is, again, Old Navy's catching strays like crazy. Old Navy had kind of like a flat and unemotional, unengaging graphics package that, again, is fashion for the people is what you see over there. and it doesn't look very fashionable. It doesn't really look like it's for everybody. So we didn't want to do that. Again, too, you can't really see this. This is a bit of an eye chart, but just looking again at what customers are doing, looking at their incomes, looking at where they spend their income, looking at what generations pool, and then what the ages typically prioritize. So again, when we're trying to identify what these target customers are doing, there's a lot at stake, and we really want to make sure we do our homework. Okay, one more client example. So this is Mattress Firm, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with Mattress Firm. There's a lot of memes about Mattress Firm right now and conspiracy theories about them. And I gotta say, working with them was one of my favorite things that I was ever able to do. They were so cool, such a cool client. And this was actually my first foray into brand strategy. Really, the thing is we wanted to help them redefine how they think about sleep. Because sleep is something that's complicated. We all need it. It is an investment. It is a daily investment. It takes conscious effort from all of us to have good sleep. And their proposition was just value. We just want to sell the cheapest mattresses, and we want to sell as many as we possibly can. And here's the deal. I'm going to ask you guys, do any of you know how long the shelf life of a mattress is? Somebody just take a guess. It's 10 years. It's 10 years. So it takes 10 years for you to say, all right, it's time for me to go ahead and get a new mattress. And if you think about it, if you sleep 300 times on that mattress, you're going to a year, then you're going to sleep 3,000 times on it in 10 years. So it's important to get this purchase right. So we help Mattress Firm break away from, oh, it's all about value, and it's more about investment. And here's why the investment matters. First off, technology is playing a deeper role in how we sleep. People are tracking how they sleep, whether it's Apple Watch, whether it's Fitbit or whatever. There's also all sorts of different automated little technologies and lights and things that kind of help people get in the mood to fall asleep and feel comfortable. And then even technology like Sleep Number, where it completely adjusts based on what your needs are. And it can do it in the middle of the night. If you're sleeping a certain way, it'll adjust for you. It's crazy what technology can do. So it's not the enemy of your sleep, it's actually an enabler. Also, the idea of beauty sleep is not necessarily the sleep itself. It's everything leading up to it. So how do people get in the mood for sleep? Do they meditate? Do they do yoga? Do they exercise? Do they eat a certain thing? Are we playing on their senses? Stuff like essential oils and diffusers and whatnot. And even in the case of IKEA, this is so funny. There were IKEAs overseas where you could go and lay down and try out one of the beds, sleep there overnight, and they'd wake you up with breakfast. So how's that for trying the product out? So then the other thing that we wanted them to do is to start looking at sleep as self-care, because sleep is something that we deserve. So we have to go to bed. Yes, we have to sleep. It's a human necessity, but you deserve good sleep. Everybody deserves good sleep. It's not necessarily like, I got to go to bed. It's more like, I'm about to get the best sleep of my life, and I deserve this. I had such a hard day. I did all this stuff. I learned at Ohio State University all day. Let me just go ahead and rest my head and get the sleep that I need. So how are people using sleep as self-care? Things like CBD gummies and melatonin infused, things like bath bombs before bed, kind of carrying that with them, that experience with them before they hit the sheets. Also, helping Mattress Firm keep it simple. Their branding was all over the place. We wanted them to look at brands that were much simpler, like Stitch Fix and Backdrop, so that they can be more peaceful. And obviously, sleep had a lot of work to do at the time. 63% of people are unhappy about their sleep quality. I know that I am. Again, as a person that just bounces off the walls all the time, I really just don't get enough sleep. I really need to start getting better about that. And then our generation, our demographic, 20 to 39, 37% believe that they don't get enough sleep. They just don't have a strong sleep duration. And then as you get older, apparently it gets worse. 40% in the 40 to 59 demographic say they also have short sleep duration. So hopefully I can start to figure this out before it gets bad. And 91% of people believe a good mattress is essential to their health. So sleep's a priority, and America has a sleep crisis. And we helped Mattress Firm adopt that. And they developed a really, really cool experience around it, and we're very grateful for that partnership. All right, so aside from the brand strategy, as a marketing person, I have a very annoying philosophy with insights and trend research. And that philosophy is this. If we're going to do something once, you're going to hear about it at least 3 times. And if you're like, at this point, I'm going to block you, that's fine. right? But at least you saw it, you engaged with it, you interacted with it. And we want our business to adopt this mentality of read, watch, and listen content. If I develop something once, I want you to be able to read it, I want you to be able to watch it, and then I want you to be able to listen to it. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's an Instagram video, maybe it's an article. It doesn't matter. We're going to dice it up and we're going to make it digestible. And we also do this for big presentations in new business situations. So I am involved in a lot of new business scenarios for our company, and they're pretty high stakes and they're pretty fun and exciting, but they're also very stressful. And one thing that I hope that I can communicate here is that you're going to hear a lot over the years, you're going to hear a lot about this word pitch, a sales pitch. Don't adopt the word pitch. Make it a presentation, because a presentation is an experience between you and that other person. If I'm just pitching you something, I'm just throwing something at you, I hope it sticks, right? I hope that it works out. A presentation is an experience between you and that other party, and they feel engaged in it. They can have much more fun there, and they feel like they're gaining something that's important from it. So here's some times that we did it. We did it for some pretty big brands like Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken, if any of you are familiar, Food Lion. We also did it for Pilot Flying J, of course, Mattress Firm, and other grocery brands like Hannaford and stuff like that. On top of that too, again, the social media side of things, we want to make this content have multiple purposes and multiple ways of outreach. So we'll take it and we'll digest it, and we'll do videos, we'll create insights, we'll create articles, we'll get our people involved, our designers involved. You know, Brandon, who's over there, he's awesome. He's literally the better half that I have. We work together, and he and I, we went out to New York, I want to say last spring, for a big project that we had open up out there in Long Island, and we just documented it, walked through it, took everybody through it, told everybody what each phase of the store and the customer journey is about, and that's exactly the type of content that people engage with that are in the retail space, because what happens is they get a little bit of FOMO. They see a good design, they say, why can't that brand be me? Let me reach out to them. So it's another reason why we market this kind of stuff. It's less about what we can do and more about look at what we did, because then people are like, that's the social proof right there. And the last thing, and then I'll open it up for Q&A, or we can have a dialogue, or I can just start asking y'all questions, is the gist. So this is our social media platform. This is completely proprietary to us. And we developed this because we have a quarterly newsletter, or had a quarterly newsletter that was #1 in the US. And we had quite a couple thousand subscribers that came to it. And we wanted to repurpose it and turn it into something interactive and engaging. And again, to adopt that read, watch, and listen mentality. We want to have content that people can watch us, listen to us, read what we have to say, see our projects, catch up to speed with the work that we're doing, and also feel like there's something insightful to gain from the insights that we're putting out there. Okay, I just yapped at you for like 35 minutes straight. So why don't we, first off, does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff that we do or that I do or how we go about it?
What's your favorite trend right now?
My favorite trend right now. Honestly, funny enough, I'm loving the jewelry stuff. So I've always worn a lot of jewelry. And let's talk about this. In 2016 and stuff like that, when I was in college, it wasn't cool. Like, people would look at you and be like, you're extra, right? And, like I said, I'm from Columbus. I got my ears pierced and I was wearing jewelry and stuff when I was 8 years old, because where I was from, like the burb that I was from, that's what everybody was doing. My brother was doing it. And seeing jewelry kind of come around, it's almost like, it's so funny that it's coming back around in this way, because I remember when I was getting clowned for that. So I think that that's one of my favorite trends, and seeing people kind of embrace themselves and be extra with what they want to wear and what they want to do. If I'm going to wear something with cheetah print, I'm going to do it because I want to, right? If I'm going to wear orange leather to work, I'm going to do it because I want to, right? And that's one of the things, is that fashion and trends along that line, especially with jewelry, people are just doing what they want to do, and I feel like there's much more acceptance about that and a lot more leniency there.
How do you get in touch with your customers? Like, are they just aware you guys are around, so they'll reach out to you? Do you guys have like a LinkedIn or anything that you kind of put out to them?
That's a great question. Let's talk marketing here. So that is part of Brandon and I's job. So we work really, really hard on creating really strong, what we call SEO. Are any of you familiar with that term? It's called search engine optimization. So our goal, so when you look up food near me and you see all those restaurants come up, they have really good SEO. It's not necessarily just a location thing. You'll see sometimes sponsored on Google and things along those lines. Our goal is to have the best SEO that we can possibly have. So when you look up retail design or you look up design agency, our website comes up first. And there's a lot of work that you have to put into that. Having the right keywords in Google, having the right ad spend, paid ads that you put into it. Of course, LinkedIn is a great example. We invest a lot of money on LinkedIn through the campaigns that we develop and the content that we develop. Stuff like this. Let me see if I can get this back up here. Stuff like this goes on LinkedIn. So we're going to put it in the gist, but you're going to see it on LinkedIn. You're going to see it on Instagram too. That's that rule of 3 again. You're going to see it all over the place. And we invest a lot into that content. We want to create a little bit of FOMO. We spend a lot of time on our case studies as well because our projects are us talking about the work that we did. It's walking the walk, if you will. Because I don't want to tell you that we're the best designers in the world. I want to show you the built store on Times Square across from the other built store on Times Square that you can go and experience. And you say, okay, I think they know what they're doing. So that's a really good question. That's kind of our philosophy with how we market ourselves. Any other? Yeah, go ahead.
Like in this job, how has it changed the way like you experience stores personally, like the way you shop? Are you always like aware of like the psychological stuff going on, or like taking notes of it in like your experiences?
That's such a great question. You know when you do something so much, you just go numb to it? I'm basically just like you still. I walk into a store and I'm not even computing what's going on because it just happens. I'm so used to it that I'm like, it's like I factory reset when I walk into a store. I have to actively, consciously try to tap into that. So, it's one of those things where I have to reach into that 5% of my brain to really process it. But there's 2 things that happen. The first thing that happens is, because this is an amazing question, by the way, I appreciate things when it's done well. I'm like, that is so cool. I need to remember that. I'm grateful that I went into this store and I saw this and I can refer back to it. The other thing happens, like for example, I'll give you an example of Piata. There's a Piata on Lane Avenue over here that their trash can is completely separate from their drink fountain. That's shitty design. So I'm like, why would you do that, right? So you learn the cool things and the not so cool things, and you got to live with them both, right? So your mind will kind of like send you pings here and there when stuff is good and when it's not so good. Yeah.
How did you get into like this type of career?
That's another great question. So, like I said, I tried the journalism stuff and I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that I was going to pursue. So then when I did the sales opportunity, I realized I was like, I'm not going to love this. So when I was here, I went to every career fair that I could possibly go to. And I tried to create a personal brand and I tried to market myself however I could. And that really helped me kind of stand out a little bit when it came down to the other students and the competition I was going against. I kind of felt like I had my own thing going on. And a business opportunity came up with a company called JLL. And I submitted my name in there and I presented myself the best that I could. And they reached back out to me and they said, hey, listen, we're not looking for a position at JLL, but we have an agency that specializes in design. Would you like to come to this agency and try to work with us for 6 months? I ended up working there for over a year. And I loved the work that I did at that company, but ultimately I realized it's time for me to get into more traditional marketing and brand strategy. So then I made the switch from that agency over to Schuh Gerdemann, which is where I'm at right now. That was a great question. All right, cool.
100 questions.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to hit you all 100.
Okay, let's do it.
So brands that you think are getting it right, if you want to talk about various segments, right, fair. So, and not only that they're getting it right, but through your eyes, why?
I'm so stoked about this. This is great. So I have a few brands that I love. One is Aritzia. Aritzia does a really great job because you walk in and they've got this ambiance to it. It's kind of sexy in a way, and it's exciting, and there's some energy in it, and it makes you just kind of want to shop. And they have, like I said, they have high quality materials in there, And across the store fleet, they do a really, really good job executing on that. Another one is one that you can all experience actually just down the street at Easton. It's called Tecovas. So Tecovas is a leather and boots store, and they just opened up at Easton, but I ran into them in Nashville. Tecovas is so cool. First off, they have complimentary embroidering on leathered goods, so you could bring your wallet in there, and they'll just engrave your name or stitch your name into it for free. They don't have to do that, but they do that. But the thing is you went there and you checked it out, and all of a sudden that jacket looks kind of cute, right? That's how they do it. That's good retail. They bring you in with a service offering or hospitality, which, by the way, this is now trend level. Hospitality is huge in retail. Speaking of that, somebody who's getting it right is Indochino. So I walk into Indochino, I'm trying to get fitted up for a suit, got some big business stuff, got maybe a wedding going on this year, and the first thing they say is, let me get you something to drink. Now I know I'm going to stay here for a while. I'm going to have fun with this person. This person's going to get to know me. They're going to measure me up. I'm going to feel like we're buddies at the end of this thing. And I got a free old-fashioned out of it, right? So the hospitality cues that happen in retail, whether Indochino is the most beautiful store I've ever been into or not, they have the environment and the service component down. So if it's service, or if it's service, if it's product, service, and environment. So that's the thing I want you guys to think about. When you go to a really good store, it may not look the best, but you may love it. You probably love it because the product's good or the service is good. The environment doesn't have to be the best. The thing that sucks for us as designers is that's our job. We're the environment people. If we're worth a company that nails the product and nails the service, they don't have to hire us. But if you nail all three, then you're an elite category. You're with Target, you're with Louis Vuitton, you're with Aritzia, you're with the brands that really nail it, Tecovas and stuff like that. Another one too, I guess I'll say, for the musicians out there, if there are any, there's a brand called Gibson. They make guitars. They have a flagship in Nashville called the Gibson Garage. It is the coolest store that I think I've ever been to in my life. So check out Gibson Garage. That is a case study on merchandising at an expert level.
A huge critique about Aritzia that I know like a lot of people have is that in the fitting room, the mirrors, you have to like walk outside of your fitting room and like stand out in front of everyone to see a mirror. Like, what do you think the purpose behind that is? Because I know like just like among my friends talking about it, but also all over the internet, like everyone hates that and everyone thinks it's so uncomfortable having to like, especially if you're trying on like a tank top or a bra, having to like walk outside the fitting room half naked to all like the people sitting out there and then all the other people doing the same thing.
So first off, for me, I've only been able to tour Aritzia without the ability to go in the fitting room, because what am I trying on there, right? So that is such a great point. That's bad design. That's just something they need to rectify. Because again, so when we talked about it, I gave you all a previous example of having a personal moment inside the fitting room. And why that's really, really important. You don't want to put everybody on display and have that moment where it's like, hey, listen, a moment of reflection in front of everybody. I'm trying this clothes. It is a very vulnerable thing to do. Like if I go to a store and I try on a shirt and I look like, I'm like a can of biscuits about to bust out of it, I don't want everybody seeing that. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, come on now. I don't want that. So that's bad design. Aritzia's got to rectify that. So Aritzia, if you're watching, call us. We'll help you out.
What's a store that you've gone into recently that you think could use some work?
A store that I think that could use some work. There's quite a few. I would say one that I would love to work on as a passion project, because they could use it, would be Kroger. Kroger could use, I think, a lot of help. They have some that are pretty modern and pretty nice, but the way you navigate some of the Krogers, first off, they change the store layout on an individual basis with some of their stores a little bit too much to my taste. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So then I have these different Krogers in my neighborhoods, and they none of them are the same, and there's all these issues. Again, it's not super great design. I think Kroger could really benefit from having a better standard that they set for themselves. In retail, I would love to work on a project like a Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble, when you go into a Barnes & Noble, and I don't count the campus one, because that's basically like the campus Barnes & Noble might as well just be the Ohio State fan shop. Let's just be real. The Barnes & Noble I'm thinking about is the one at Easton. So I'm a huge nerd. I collect manga. I watch anime. I do all this stuff. I have a million manga books at the house. So I'm always in there trying to see if I can find a book that I'm looking for. And every time I go in there, it just feels a little outdated. just feels like the signage could be a little bit better. They could play into that bookworm thinking a little bit more. And I think also Barnes & Noble has a cool brand. And when you think about how they could enhance the experience with dwell time, people being there, reading, hanging out, turning little moments into, I spent an hour at Barnes & Noble on lunch and I was reading, and I started this new book today and I documented it. Maybe I even put some feedback in at Barnes & Noble. Like my brain's just all over the place with how Barnes & Noble could do a better job. So, that was a great question. I didn't even think about that until you asked me, so thank you.
Do you think it benefits a brand to kind of like adopt like across like the board, like these store layouts or like certain trends, or do you think it helps like based on location or like demographics to have their storefronts to be like a little bit different than each other?
That is such an amazing question. Our clients ask us that all the time. The answer is yes to both, and here's how. So you want to have a base level store plan, a base level design or layout or customer journey. For example, I want my customers doing the same things in each store, but I want my graphics and my hand-touched moments and the little design elements to feel local. So I'm going to have signage that says, "Thank you, Columbus," right? That maybe says 614 or whatever. And maybe it's a little corny, but the thing is what we've learned is people kind of like corny. So they may say, "Oh, that's corny," but let's not lie about it. We kind of like it. So it's one of those things. So we have the hand touch moments and we have localization in store, but the design is uniform. And that's beneficial because if I walk into a Sephora, Sephora's a great example. Their design is way too cluttered, by the way. They have shit everywhere, excuse my language. But when you walk in there, you know what you're gonna get. Every Sephora feels the same. So we wanna make sure that our store is local, but has a strong base design so that people can navigate it the exact same way and the journey does what we want it to do.
I was going to ask how you protect your design when you're presenting it to different brands as far as I don't know, copyright or whatever.
That is such a great example, or such a great question. I'll give you an example. So sometimes our potential clients will be very selfish and greedy, and they'll ask us for something called spec work. Spec work is a very difficult thing for us to manage because basically they're saying, what are your ideas? Like the Barnes & Noble idea, Barnes & Noble should pay me for that because if they like that and they take it and they implement it, we should monetize that. Every little thing that you think of, I want you all to realize this. Every idea that you have is worth something. It's not worth nothing. There's strategy. It's something that people will say, oh, it's just thinking. BS. It's that thinking that takes it and elevates it to the next level. So don't ever undermine yourself or the monetization of what your thoughts and ideas are. So these companies will come to us and they'll say, hey, listen, we want your ideas. We want some designs, some speculative thinking about what the future of Barnes & Noble could be. Can you mock some stuff up? Can you design some stuff for free? You know what we do on every single one of those? Copyright, trademark, rights of Schutt-Gurdemann. If you use it, if you take that idea, you're going to be getting some uncomfortable calls. But the second that a client hires us, we relinquish that. It's all theirs now. Every idea, everything that we do, as long as both parties are happy and we're retained and we're working on the project, our ideas aren't our ideas. They are your ideas. You have that, that it's your property now. And we're happy to relinquish that because that's how we want to work. We want to be an extension of your brand, and we are now your brand. And then once it's built, I can talk about it however I want to because it's public domain. So that's the other thing. When you get into marketing, don't let companies sign you to agreements where you can't talk about the projects if you can do that. If you can avoid that, because that has been the bane of my existence in many ways. We've done so many projects that I wish I could tell you about, but I just can't.
How do you feel about kind of having collaboration in stores? I know that you mentioned Starbucks and Target, or now they have Sephora and Kohl's.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, I don't know, do a lot with that, or what are your thoughts on it?
So that's another great question. So we call that shop and shop. Shop and shops happen quite a bit. Altered State is a client of ours, of course. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Altered State. Altered State has shop and shops with other sub brands of their own. So they will have a shop and shop for one of their sub brands called Sanctuary that we'll develop within the space. Or another great example is if you go to any Ulta, you'll see a little shop and shop for this company called Saban. They have hand care and lotions and things of that nature, and that's ours. So we did that for Saban. It's a small end cap. It's nothing crazy, but we develop these little moments and curate them for tons of different brands. And you'd be surprised at actually how impactful it is. Because if you develop, let's just say we develop an end cap and it's just this big, but we put it in every Ulta in America, the visibility is huge. So it's kind of funny, like if you think about a Macy's, you walk into a Macy's and you see Ralph Lauren here, you see Levi's here, you see this brand here. Every brand pays for that retail space. It's almost like it's real estate. They are paying Macy's for the real estate within that store. So you're walking in and you're going to this little shop and this little shop and this little shop, and it can be really, really fun and rewarding and collaborative, and it can be something that gives guests a sense of discovery. Like, I didn't know that Saban was in Ulta, and like now I got the best hand cream known to man, which, by the way, I do love their lotion. It's some good stuff. I'm a L'Occitane person myself, thanks to my mom, but Saban also has good stuff, so check that out.
I'm gonna hit you with a trifecta, and it'll be the end.
Okay, let's do it.
So, on behalf of everybody sitting here, so what would your advice be? That general advice, and then maybe as it layers into cool jobs that you see emerging that are extensions from quote trends, forecasting.
Well, so that's the thing, right? I had no idea that the agency space was an opportunity for me. I didn't even think it wasn't on my radar. I was thinking, I'm going to have the standard, walk in with a badge and sit down and do some sort of thing. And I have the exact opposite of that. Like I said, I could get a call tomorrow and now all of a sudden I'm in freaking New York for something. And here's the deal. As fun as that sounds, I also want to preface it by saying this. I work some weird hours. There are some days I'm not going into work. Don't show that to HR. There are some days where I'm working till 11:30 at night on a big business opportunity, or I'm in a weird city that I'm not comfortable in, and I'm by myself, and I have to handle this kind of stuff. So again, as cool as it sounds, also just remember there's two sides to everything with that. So if you're like, that sounds like so much fun, it can be fun. It can also be a little lonely. It can be a little difficult. It can be a little hard to manage. You're going to miss your friends or your family. You're going to have to tell people no to things. It sucks. But at the same time, it's also really great. So agency space is something that I would encourage you to look into. There's tons of really, really great agencies here. There's agencies for everything. For marketing, there's agencies for design, retail design, brand design. There's agencies for retail consulting, right? There's agencies for people that work in real estate. There's an agency for everything. There are people that handle just content, social media. There's agencies that handle social media content. And the thing, again, one piece of advice that I would give to you is when you're in business, again, I can't emphasize this enough. I have seen this pay out much more than the opposite. Just keep it simple when you're talking to people. When you're talking to people that are in powerful positions, that are see-whatevers, right? They don't want to be talked to like, oh, if we look at the year-over-year investment in the KPIs and the ROI, just ditch that. Just be like, hey, listen, we saved $5,000 on this last month. That makes sense to them. And so when you're speaking to people, just try and keep it simple and be strong and confident and concise in the way that you deliver the information you want to get across. The second thing that I would say is, again, never undervalue your thinking. That's your differentiator. Your thinking is what makes you unique, right? And I like to think that my thinking is what helps establish strong relationships with the business that I work for, as well as the clients that we have, because that's what makes me unique to them, and that's what makes our relationship really, really fun and different, is because they believe in my psychology and the confidence that I have in it. And let me tell you something, I am not always right. I'm mostly wrong. That's what pattern hunting is. You're mostly wrong. You're not going to be right all the time. But let me tell you something, when I'm right, I am, oh my gosh, I'm unsufferable, right? I'm going to let everybody know that I was right. And when I was wrong, I will let everybody know I was wrong, but we'll have a dialogue about it. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, I see why you were wrong, right? It's all about accepting it, wins and losses and things of that nature. And it'll make you much more relatable.
Future you, what's it gonna be?
Well, future me, I have some big goals. I'm not a designer, of course. I'm on the brand strategy side. I'm on the more of the thinking side. And my brother is a creative director at a different agency, and he designs stores, and he's a very talented individual. So I think in a perfect storm, if I continue on the professional path that I'm on, he and I would get together and do our thing and have like a really, really cool way to service retailers that way, where he would do the design and I would be the justification for the design, and get our brands to believe in it and to think that it's right, and hopefully it doesn't suck. But the other side of the coin is I don't know what's going to happen with the music side of things. You know, if something life-changing comes in, I'm going to pursue that. So as fun as everything is, you know, what I'm doing right now is I'm just going to see where life takes me and see what my opportunities are and roll with the punches. And I believe in myself, just like all of you should believe in yourself. I have hit rock bottom before and had no money and had no job and didn't know what I was going to do. And if I ever hit that again, I'm going to figure it out. And that's something that all of you will also figure out. It's the growing pains part of life, right? So hang in there. You're at the best damn school in the country, and you'll get a great education, and you'll be super smart, and you're going to be better than everybody else out there when the time comes.